from the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. As we have a chance to chat about a new Bronco who's actually a very familiar face. Kareem Jackson back with the Denver Broncos on a one-year deal. And Benjamin, it seems like with Kareem Jackson coming back into the fold, this is a little bit of the acknowledgement of something we had talked a little bit about over the course of the last few weeks on Broncos Country Tonight. The radio show is the anticipation of, hey, Caden Stearns could be in for a much larger role this year, but you'd like to have some depth there. You'd like to have a little bit more hedge there. And we know Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons work really well together. So what's your reaction to that?
Well, Kareem wasn't sold that he was going to be back. He was worried that he wasn't going to get a chance to be back. I guess he's probably happy about that. I think that Justin Simmons enjoys his leadership in the locker room, and I think the rest of the team kind of needs the veteran experience that he brings. Again, you got a very young team and a young coaching staff, and I think that's going to be a positive. I wonder if he's going to make the team. He's back on a one-year deal. He's going to have to earn that spot over Caden Stearns in camp. So that would be my question at this point, because I know they like Caden Stearns quite a bit, and I wouldn't say it's 100% that even though he signed that deal, that Kareem Jackson makes the team in the final 53.
Yeah, and I kind of sort of see that. I tend to say, based on his play last year, even if you feel like he's lost a bit of a step, he's still a tone setter for that defense, and the energy he brings. You're right. He's a great locker room guy. They do enjoy his leadership. And then even out there on the field, he comes up with some big hits. And I have to imagine, as he took a look at the landscape, realizing what he's playing for the remainder of his career, I'm sure he took a look at it and said, yeah, I mean, this is a good place to go. I know who I'm playing with, and I also know the situation I'm walking into. The Broncos are expected to be good this year. I imagine just for the whole secondary, what an exciting boost this is actually going to be.
Yeah, again, this is if he makes the 53, and that's something that you go back and look at the tape last year. I mean, there were some times, especially in those early games, Marquise Brown beat him pretty badly. Henry Ruggs beat him pretty badly. Those guys are very fast, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that Kareem Jackson is a starting caliber safety in the NFL anymore. I think the other things that he brings to the table are very valuable. But I'm concerned about the athleticism of being a starting caliber safety, and I'm wondering if there's not some kind of hybrid dimebacker, kind of inside, because he played corner to start his career. If they move him sort of back to that position in sort of a zone or a blitzing role and make him more of a specialist than an actual two-high safety.
You got there right ahead of where I was going to say, is there a way to utilize what he does have, his skill set, in this defense and give Caden Stearns a bigger role? I sort of feel like there is.
And I think that's the way to go, because I don't think that Kareem Jackson, he's certainly not a one-high safety anymore, but I don't think he's a two-high safety anymore either. There's some cover four that he could play, but I really think that his best bet, because of his tackling ability and his gap fit ability, is much like Kwan. If you're running dime, you put him on the other side as the other slot guy, and then you bring him downhill, and he can come after the running back and deliver those hits that we've talked about, or he can go after the quarterback even a little bit. So I suspect that if Kareem Jackson makes this roster, it'll be a bit more of a specialist in kind of a, almost like a honey badger role in the way that he moves around, more so than being a high safety.
Feels like somebody on this show, I struggle to remember who, because we have so many great ideas on this show all the time. I feel like somebody on this show brought up a Tyrone Matthews kind of role would fit this defense really well, especially if you're running dime or 6 DBs. I just can't. Oh, it was me.
I'm drawing a massive blank on that. It's like I don't remember any of that at all because it's totally damaging to what I'm trying to do here right now. But
it is totally damaging.
No, I mean, and I'm glad Kareem's back, but that was one of those things. I looked at the tape last year. I know they looked at the tape last year, and there were some glaring concerns. So I'm a little bit more tepid in my happiness about him being back, because I'm not sure he's going to be on the 53.
Okay, well, I like the move specifically because it felt like heading into the draft, you were going to have a significant need there. I know they added Reed in free agency, but he's a little bit more of a special teams. Jamar Johnson's still here. Caden Stearns was going to be what we believe is a starter, and he still may play starter snaps. But the way I guess I viewed it for me is like, okay, man, performance, injury, holy cow, do you really want to mess with that, which is one of the strengths of your team? That safety tandem has been one of the strengths of this Broncos roster for several years now. And we know what you get with Justin Simmons, but the safety tandem relies on good communication really for both sides. So I'm thrilled by this. I'm thrilled at the addressing this before the draft, knowing that you don't actually have to do something right away when you get in there.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that there's the depth issue at safety as well. I mean, you got Johnson, but are you really satisfied? You don't know much about him. You don't know, and the other guys on the roster, I think, are just kind of guys. So I do think that there's a depth argument to be made for Kareem Jackson, but the other things that he brings, I think it's the intangibles that he brings that's more beneficial with this signing than necessarily just signing him as a player.
Because really, when you think about the other positions now for the draft, and this kind of, again, narrows in that focus, right? Tight end is going to be a position they want to add to. Edge rusher, certainly a position they're going to want to add to, at least if nothing else, some developmental depth. Then you talk about offensive tackle. A right tackle is something they do want to fix long-term. Whether that's something you can absolutely do in the day 2, second round, third round remains to be seen. But really, like, this narrows in that you can add a cornerback, which would be a good thing to add. You kind of get down to more 4 or 5 positions that you'd like to add to, but you're not desperate to. And the reality is, as we got closer to the draft, I would have probably brought up safety continually, even though you and Steve Atwater have sat here before and told me that safety's in pretty good hands. It might be in good hands for the long term. I just like the hedge. That's all. But I loved your idea about Kareem Jackson in that role where he can be a tone setter for this defense. He can be a leader on the field, and you're not putting him in a position to be susceptible to any kind of danger out there. I think that's a good thing.
You can plug him in kind of a dime role in the red zone, and I think that helps you out a lot too.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of thing. I think that in the vertical field, it'd probably be Stearns, but as the field gets wider than it is long, I think you start to look to Kareem Jackson and his ability, and especially his ability to tackle in the open field. That's just such an underrated commodity out of a defensive back.
Love the move. 1-year deal for Kareem Jackson. He is back with the Denver Broncos. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.